guys, so like I said, I had to go back and try to rebend this, and I got it pretty much exactly how I wanted it. It's not perfect right here, but this is good enough for me. And so now got almost knocked it over. Got the purple fluid right here. You guys saw what it looked like in the bottle right there. And we are going to start filling the system up. So a couple things to be sure of before you start filling the system. First off, going to disconnect all power cables so my two video cards are not plugged in. Motherboard has a jumper cable right here. What that means is when I switch on the on-off switch on the back of the power supply, it will send power to the components, or it'll send power basically to anything that's plugged in. It takes off, it jumps over the standby basically, which is the on switch on the top. So that's why you want to make sure you don't have anything else powered on, because otherwise it's just going to power on your machine and your stuff could start heating up without you actually having any cooling. There is only one thing that I still have plugged in, and that is this extra ATX 12 volt cable up here. Lighting's not super good so you can't see it. There's actually two slots for it on this motherboard. I only have one of them plugged in, and that's totally fine. That means that the processor might actually be getting a tiny bit of power. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure, but I cannot get that cable out right now. And if I was to be able to get that cable out, I may not be able to get it back in without taking off a bunch of stuff and redoing a bunch of stuff. So we're just going to have to try and trust it and hope that it works while we're filling. We only have to turn things on for small periods of time when we need the pump to pump fluid through. So if we go back to the power supply right here, we do have the additional PCI Express 6-pin cables plugged in, but they're not plugged in on the video card. So that's fine. Hard drives are unplugged. Also, just a note, I did want to just make sure that the pump worked. And I accidentally left the hard drives plugged in when I first tested this out. So I'm hoping that I didn't just blow out my drives. I think it should be totally fine. This is basically the lighting node, Pro, and stuff like that. That is not plugged in. By the way, you could plug this in, and what will happen is your fans will turn on and the LEDs will light up. That's a good check to do too with everything else unplugged. Only thing that's plugged in right now is the pump itself. That is this Molex connector right here, plugged into there. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to start filling this. And actually, let's just go through how the loop works. So this is the outlet port. So fluid comes into the reservoir. It's going to go down the outlet port into the other side of the case. It will come through here into the 360 radiator, go up to the top, come back down to the bottom, and come out here. Up to here, we'll go into the graphics card. Come up here, we'll go into the second graphics card. We'll go up here, go into the CPU, across there, across the graphics card, down into the 140 millimeter. Then come back up here along this into the 240 millimeter. Go through there, come back out, come back from the 240 millimeter, and end up back in the reservoir down on this side. So what's going to happen is I will fill this, and the fluid level is going to rise basically until it gets to, wherever I fill it up to, maybe here. Then I have to pump fluid into the system, because remember, there are parts in the system that are above where this is right here. The water level will drain, air will come out this side, I'll have to fill it more, turn on the pump again to let it circulate through, so on and so forth. And then what we're going to do also is put down paper towels and stuff like that to make sure that it doesn't leak. So what I'm going to do right now, and now that I think about it, I do need to let this run for an extended period of time. That's okay though, it should be pumping fluid through, and if that processor actually is getting power from that 12 pin, or from that 8-pin connector on the other side, it should still cool it. There should be enough fluid volume circulating through that it will cool it. But you want to let it run for like an hour or something like that to make sure that it doesn't leak. Although I do have to go to bed pretty soon. So I just want to fill it, get it full, and then I'll put the paper towels down, we'll leak, and I'll just let it kind of just sit there off, and then later on I'll turn on the system again to get the fluid moving as well. Actually, I could technically plug in the fans too, so that it is getting active cooling. Anyway, I'll think about it, but let's go ahead and get this filled. So what I have set up here is a 90-degree rotary here into some extra hard line, and I just heated it up right here and expanded it so I could put this funnel in here. Obviously rinsed out the funnel and everything first, made sure it's completely clean. Although I don't think I've ever used this funnel before, so it should be okay. This is a pretty loose fit though, so I'm gonna wanna make sure that I don't let that fall out and just spill fluid everywhere. So I think I'm gonna film this from this side while I'm filling so that you can see the fluid kind of working through the system. The droplets that you see in here are not water, that's actually just isopropyl alcohol. That should just kind of mix in and evaporate out eventually. That shouldn't damage anything in the system here. So let's get some paper towels on and start filling.
Then I showed a clip of black woman, you mad. What is it be in the opposite order? But men are doing that for their moms. Men can't leave their mom. Men still live in their mom's house. Men still share apartments with their moms. Because let me just do this real quick. Mental agility says the majority of B-dubs don't want to be married, and the only time they want to be in a serious relationship is when they are ready to present you with a bad deal. Social programming, brothers, SYS, BM, and it has always been ingrained. That is almost in our American DNA.
All right, we got the fluid going right now. There's still a little bit of an air pocket inside the CPU water block. At the moment, it doesn't look like anything is leaking right now. So what we can do to get that out is kind of tilt the case in a couple different directions here. Let's look at the other side. You can hear the pump is running right now. Reservoir is full. So I had this inlet right here, my fill port into the opposite one, and water came out the tube that's going up in there and then out the side, and so I spilled a little bit of cooling fluid around here, but luckily it didn't get in on any of the power connections to the pump or anything like that, so that's good. Anyway, I'm going to tilt the computer and see if I can get some of that air out of the CPU water block. Alright guys, so it is now up and running. There is just this air bubble that keeps forming in the CPU water block right there. It's kind of a pain to get rid of because there's all these little micro bubbles, and every time I tilt the machine over and clear that air bubble, the micro bubbles kind of go to that location anyway, which is sort of a bummer. I do think that this power cable up here is actually providing a tiny bit of CPU power, because the fluid actually does feel like it's heating up a little bit relative to the rest of the case. But at the moment, it doesn't appear there are any leaks, and the fluid is indeed flowing as I want it to. You know, when I go to clear the air bubbles, I can see the fluid. I basically can get a trace line of where the fluid's going throughout the system, so that's pretty sweet. On the opposite side here, we've got the reservoir sealed off. Here's my filling port, 90 degree right there, air vent port right there. So this is all looking really good. Yeah, that's sweet. Once I get the machine up and running at this point, I mean, I'm really liking the way this is looking right here. This is what I was talking about, this solid core of just 3 fluid pipes going right past each other, and they kind of octopus out at the bottom and come out around the top. Got return lines hidden in the back and everything. Yeah, this is I'm really liking the way that this turned out, and what I'm going to do is just let this run for a little bit, let some of these smaller air bubbles just kind of percolate out of there. Maybe have to go through and try and clear that air pocket really fast. Another time I actually have to tilt the machine to get that air pocket to drift to the outlet side here. But that's not a problem. We're all completely sealed off. It doesn't leak when I do that, and it's only for a second. So anyway, guys, that is how to custom liquid cooling loop your computer. It was definitely probably more challenging for me than it really needed to be, but I was kind of trying to be a perfectionist to get this like really good look, across all the bends and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll get some shots of the computer when it's completely up and running and I get the LED setup going, and maybe that'll be kind of the intro part of the video too, with some music behind it. So anyway, guys, I will catch you when the computer is ready to go. Alright, so I have managed to bleed out most of the air from the CPU water block, almost all of it. I have left the system running for a really long time with paper towels. There appears to be no leaks. A lot of the small micro bubbles have made their way out of the system. So now we've got both graphics cards plugged in, motherboard plugged in. Come around to the back. All the hard drives are plugged in, the pump's plugged in, all the RGB hubs and stuff are plugged in right here. Here's the reservoir. There's still some bubbles and stuff in the reservoir. Plastic is peeled off the reservoir, of course. And now it's time to see and make sure that we get a post. So, gonna flip that on. And on this motherboard, when you flip on that power switch, you do get some lights that illuminate. Up here in the corner, you can see that prime is illuminated. Now we're gonna hit the power button. System has turned on. Fans are on. I can't tell if the pump is on. Actually. Interesting. Now we're going to see if we get a post. Yes. Okay, well, it posts. I'm going to mess around with this for a second. Get back into it because it looks like the pump's not turning on. Alright guys, so everything is now set up correctly, and I just want to show you guys this screen really fast. So here is my fluid temperature, my front radiator, bottom radiator, top radiator, and of course the pump. We've got the RPMs being displayed right now. These right here are the memory temperatures right here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slots. Then we've got the CPU temperatures, each of the cores. You can see those are sitting around 75, 80 degrees F. I know a lot of people watching this probably want to see it in degrees Celsius, but I use English units in this household because I'm an engineer and we use English units in my aerospace company. Anyway, that's not meant to be a dig, just having a little bit of fun. So we've got one of the 2080 Ti's with the various temperature probes in there. And then we have the second 2080 Ti right here. And then here are some motherboard temperature monitors and voltage monitors and stuff like that. And I wanted to share with you guys, so I realize that this video is probably getting insanely long, but I wanted to share with you guys a couple tips when you're setting this up. First of all, let's start with the very first thing on the actual hardware side, and I'll show you guys what the lighting scheme that I have set up is. So here is the final build. What it's going to look like. We've got the fans and the water block LEDs alternating between just like a pure white and then this kind of magenta color that you see there. And when it turns white, you can really see the purple color in the fluid, which I really like. The memory right now is switching between kind of like a dark-ish purple and then another magenta color. And I don't know, on the viewfinder on my camcorder, it doesn't look like I may not be capturing this because there's not enough light. One thing that I might do in the future is add just like an LED strip on top of my Commander Pro here, because I don't like that you can't really see these tubes right here. But anyway, one thing to keep in mind, when you plug in the XD5, that's the pump and reservoir, it has to be plugged into slot number 6 on here. Otherwise, when you actually put everything together and power on your computer, the pump will not get powered on. Now, there's a way to kind of trick the system into having the pump on, but then you can't control off of the fluid temp for like fan speed and pump speed. You'll have to set it to be a specified RPM. Now, you could set it to be the max RPM, and obviously that's fine, but then it gets a little bit noisy. So that's the primary thing, is make sure your pump is on, because I had to do a lot of troubleshooting, and when I was doing that, the pump wasn't turning on and my components were heating up, and obviously you don't want that to happen. Other thing to note on the software side. So make sure that you have your pump plugged into channel number 6. It actually turns on when you boot. And then on this side, in IQ, once you get that downloaded and opened, you're definitely going to want to go to the updates right here and just check for all updates and make sure everything is updated. One thing that was happening was this software wasn't communicating correctly with some of the things I had set up here, and so some of the lighting channels were not working correctly. So now we've gone over that. So what you have the Commander Core XT, which has 6 lighting slots and then 6 fan slots. But then I also have a Lighting Node Pro in there, which comes with this particular case. It's I think it's the 680X or something from Corsair. And I wanted to plug the CPU water block, the GPU water blocks, and the actual XD5 reservoir, which you can see right here, looking pretty sweet from this angle as well. I might even put LED strips in the back here, honestly, because I really want to see that lit up. Anyway, in here, when I go to lighting channel 2, or sorry, lighting setup right here, so I have all my, I have the CPU water block daisy chained to the pump reservoir, which is daisy chained to the graphics card 1, which is daisy chained to graphics card 2, and then that goes into the RGB hub. The only way I was able to get all of the LEDs to light up was changing this to an RGB LED strip. Now, you might be tempted to use the Hydro X series and then, use the pump and reservoir combo, and you can add some stuff, but I could be doing something wrong, but I was not able to get it to work unless I set this up as an RGB LED strip. Now, lighting channel 1, that is what is connected to a lot of my case fans. So now that we're talking about that, one thing to do is make sure you write down where everything is plugged in. So here I have RGB Alpha, that stands for my Commander. RGB Beta stands for my Lighting Node Pro. And you can see that I've labeled which fan is connected into which port in each. We've also have which LED that is on whatever fan or whatever device is there. Then we have where my fans are connected on the Commander. And then I have, the lighting node beta. So one in the lighting node is, in the lighting node Pro goes to the RGB hub beta, which has these connected to it. And then the second slot in the lighting node beta has the daisy chained LEDs. I have that written down here. I have one of the fans hooked up to the motherboard because the cable just wasn't necessarily long enough, and I didn't want to have like 8 fans and the pump connected to the Commander XT. It should have enough current capability, but I just didn't want to risk it, so I took one fan out of there. And then I actually don't have anything plugged into the lighting node on the Commander XT. Anyway, I get that this video is getting long, but I did want to share with you guys some of these challenges. I wanted to make this video very realistic for if you are going to do this on your own. All right, guys, let's take a look at this with the glass closed on the case. And I am really liking the way that's looking. What happens if I get some external light on this? How does that change how this all looks? Yep, so anyway, here's the build, guys. And this was a super fun project. I was talking about some lessons learned. I think one of the other important lessons is make sure that you get multiple like spares. So like I got extra fittings here. I got a lot of extra tubing because I knew I was going to be messing up bends. So make sure that you get a lot of extra stuff. Be very patient with this. And I have to admit that if you're a perfectionist like me, some of this got pretty challenging and at times annoying. But the finished product, I think, just looks really awesome. And it's also just like a fun little challenging project to do. So I would definitely say get a bunch of extra of everything. Next tip is, be patient. You're going to have to experiment a lot with layouts. Some of the cables and things like that are going to be a pain in the butt to route, but just stick with it. And you can make your build look really awesome. And what you don't want is, it's okay to mess up bends and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the final steps of turning everything on and doing the leak check and stuff like that, that's where you really don't want to mess something up. So just make sure you take your time with the leak check. Don't get super gung-ho about just like powering on your machine completely. Leave the paper towels in there. I mean, I ran this without, without any power to any of the components, off camera, probably for a total of like 3 hours or 4 hours. And then, of course, it was sitting overnight just with the fluid in there for multiple days without any leaks. And that's the main thing you want to be sure of. Don't do something dumb like I did where with the pump in the back, I accidentally chose the wrong port that should have been an air vent port for like a filling port to just fill the system. That was a bad idea. I had a bunch of fluid gush out, and luckily it didn't get on any important connectors or anything like that, but it was a pain to clean up. And once all the wire is routed and stuff like that, it's really a pain to get that all cleaned up and without undoing everything. So, oh yeah, and then here's the color scheme, what it looks like on the outside. That looks pretty sweet. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna cut the video off here pretty shortly. But thank you guys for watching if you made it all the way to the end. And again, I get that the video was really long, but the reason I wanted to make it long is I really wanted to show you guys all the steps involved so that you guys don't just, if you watch a lot of tutorial videos online, there's a ton of cutscenes and it's oh, then you just unscrew this one thing and then the next shot is it's all put together. I didn't really want it to be like that in this video. I really wanted to show you guys kind of every step of the way, all the struggles and errors, which is embarrassing for me, but for you guys, there's some really good stuff to just keep in mind and remember when you're doing your own build like this. And I strongly encourage everyone who's really into building their computer to pursue a custom liquid cooling option. I mean, it just makes the computer look extremely clean. It gets rid of a lot of the fan cables and stuff like that are connecting to the motherboard, so your motherboard is just kind of free and clear. Obviously, just setting everything up, I don't know, I just think it makes the computer look just super clean. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. That is going to conclude this one, and that is a tutorial video on how to custom liquid cool with hardline tubing your computer. So save up some money, guys, work hard, and you guys can definitely put together a machine just like this one. Again, just be diligent, take your time, save up your money. This is absolutely an unnecessary expense, so if you just like want this for fun but you're struggling financially, don't go for it. And you guys saw what the total was just for the liquid cooling plus all the extra crap that I had to get because I kept screwing stuff up. It's a pretty penny, but again, you guys have to get used to delayed gratification, having to work for what you want, having to set goals, and also just having to be very patient and be very technical in your approach to things and methodical, and kind of don't give up even though it might be frustrating. So with that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks again for watching, and later.